What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm your host with the hiccups, Ryan Thomas, today coming to you live from Buffalo, New York, July 3rd, 2017, one day away from Independence Day, the 4th of July. Very excited for tonight. I'm going to check out some fireworks. Obviously, it's weird. The 4th of July, the last few 4th of Julys, I have watched fireworks on the 3rd of July and not on the actual 4th of July. Is it really the 4th of July when you're not watching fireworks on the actual 4th of July? I don't know, but it seems like the last few years that the 4th of July has taken place, I haven't watched fireworks on the 4th. It's always on the 3rd. It's been pretty weird, but thought I'd start off the show with that weird tale, and get off to the subject matter. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast after all, but I want to give a shout out to the many, many men and women that give their lives to protect this country. They risk spending time away from their families for months, years on end, to travel to parts of the world that are just completely unsafe, to say the least. And there's moments where I think that does get lost out on. People do forget, in the midst of all the political talk and policy and the issues, we have people that are in third world countries in some of the worst conditions known to man, in terms of the civilizations that they are fighting in for us, to protect us and keep our freedoms. I feel like that is so lost in this country. We have so many headlines about tweets and policy and everything like that, it's just complete garbage. When in actuality, we have stuff that is really going on right now that people are not even paying much attention to, and that's a little bit scary. Let's talk about the fact that we still have people over in the Middle East, and we need to find a way to either get out of this, whatever war this is, or make something happen. It just seems like this has just been a never-ending process, and I hope it does come to an end so that people, women and men of this country that fight for us can go home to their families safe and sound. So that was my take on, just civilization today as we know it. Realistically, we have so many people that do not understand what is actually sacrificed. And I don't know, but I do see many, many people throughout my days that were in the military or are in the military that take time off, and they are just very shell-shocked at the reaction of the people, the everyday people that work the 9 to 5 that think that they have a say in this, and really they don't. They don't know at all. So that's my take on that. So back to the subject matter. Phil Housley, the Buffalo Sabres head coach now. I talked extensively about how I wanted Phil Housley to become the next head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, and I'm very thankful to say that the Sabres did hire him as their next head coach. Very excited in terms of how that will work out, what will take place. Most people inside Western New York think that Phil Housley's toughest task is leading the Sabres to victory. I disagree. The toughest task for Phil Housley as the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres is not to make the Sabres a winning team. On the surface, yes, he's the coach. His job is to win the games, win and, avoid failure, avoid losing at all costs. That is the job of a head coach. But I think Phil Housley's job is not only to win games for the Buffalo Sabres, but to bring back Buffalo. Bring back Buffalo in terms of bringing them back into the Sabres, bringing Buffalo back into the Sabres. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe, was 10 years to the day that Buffalo lost both Danny Briere and Chris Jury on a day that was referred to by Tim Graham of the Buffalo News as Black Monday, where both Sabres captains, Danny Briere and Chris Jury, left for greener pastures, more money, bigger market cities, bigger market teams in Philadelphia for Briere and the New York Rangers for Chris Jury. And ever since then, realistically, that was the pendulum that started everything swinging in motion for the Buffalo Sabres. When Jury left, when Briere left, that's when things started to change. We went from having Briere and Jury to going on to the next era of the Sabres with Roy, Vanek, Pominville, Stafford, and those guys. Obviously Ryan Miller as well. But realistically, ever since that moment, the Sabres have had fans, much like myself, that have had a very tough time buying into the Sabres. And obviously the last 5-6 years is pretty easy not to buy into the Sabres with the tanking and the coaching changes, the Ron Rolstons, the Ted Nolans reincarnated. Those decisions, have kind of been moves for the Sabres to lose. Where something changed last year. The Sabres are trying to win now, being that they have franchise players like Jack Eichel and Ryan O'Reilly, Evander Kane, player and Rasmus Ristolainen, being that they have a goalie that, although did not have the best shootout statistics last year, I thought got better as the season went along, showed that he had a penchant for stopping offenses left and right when a defense was in front of him. When the defense wasn't in front of him, he was pretty much on an island all by himself and was forced to adapt to the situation. But I do think Robin Leonard does have potential as a goalie in the NHL, and he's a young goalie, and he has a lot of potential left to be seen. There's a lot left to be desired, but I'm excited to see what he brings to the ice next year. So there's pieces in motion, but we as Buffalo sports fans hear that all the time. We have the pieces. We just need time. Everybody just needs to be patient. We hear that with the Bills. We hear that with the Sabres. But Phil Housley has a tougher task than Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott already has the 70,000 seats, 72,000, 73,000 seats full. The Bills fans are unlike any other. Most of the time I would say these games sell out due to the fact that the customers, the paying customers, the Bills fans go to the games only to get publicly intoxicated, and you've seen that take place, documented on the Barstool Sports documentary Bills Mafia. In a documentary, it was literally chronicling the rise of the Bills Mafia, what the Bills Mafia does, the wrestling with the tables, the crazy stunts that the Bills Mafia do. Sunday in and Sunday out. The Sabres don't have anything like that. They do have avid, diehard fans, but there is, I would say, as of now, and you can disagree with me all you want, but there is a larger contingency of fans that are having a much, much tougher time buying in to the Buffalo sports scene as a whole, Bills or Sabres. The Sabres have a lot of work to do. Last year, Dan Bylsma was in year 2 of his head coaching tenure with the Sabres. A lot was said as far as what our expectations were by GM at the time, Tim Murray, and those expectations were not met. So Phil Housley has to bring back the Sabres, obviously. But Phil Housley's biggest task, and a task I think he will, mind you, succeed in, is bringing Buffalo back to the Sabres. And that's a kind of a weird analogy, but that is really how I see it. Wins does that, but realizing that this guy is as good a defensive coach in hockey as anybody, has been involved in the NHL for over 30 years as a player and as a coach, a real integral part in what Nashville did this past season defensively with Subban and those guys in Nashville. Realistically, we needed a coach like Phil Housley, and it's a perfect fit. Former Sabre, defensive coach that fits the needs of the team currently. Rasmus Ristolainen, realistically, the only defenseman outside one that they just acquired in John Scaletta. Jake McCabe, some of those younger guys need to be honed, and Phil Housley, I believe, will do a very good job at doing that. And in doing so, that itself will bring back Buffalo. So I'm very excited to see what Phil Housley brings to the table. I think that this was a move that needed to be made. It was a move that the new GM of the Sabres, Jason Botterill, needed to make to bring back the Sabres' swagger. This is something that will kind of put the Sabres fraternity, in the limelight. And that was a move that realistically was shades of Pat LaFontaine, kind of calling on a former player. And we've seen teams in the NHL do this very successfully with coaches and executives. Steve Yzerman of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Brendan Shanahan. I think Shanahan is actually one of the high-ranking officials in the NHL now. Chris Jury is the president of the New York Rangers. So there's a lot of players in the game today, former players still in the game as executives, coaches, scouts, you name it. Phil Housley is now the head man of one of the 31 teams in the National Hockey League. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I think a former Sabre like Phil Housley, nice guy, well-spoken, reliable, dependable. You know what you're going to get. He's accountable. Words that we haven't really heard in terms of Sabres head coaches since the days of Lindy Ruff. So I'm excited. Phil Housley will bring back Buffalo. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take. Thanks for tuning in.